Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I want to talk about the top 10 best films of the decade. It's hard enough to make a top 10 list for a specific year. Making one for a whole decade, you're cutting out a bunch of really good movies. You might have 100 movies you're all vying for one spot on this list. But in the end, I could only pick 10 for each decade. So I hope you guys like the list, but keep in mind, they're not going to be perfect. I'm going to disagree with you on some things, and I haven't even seen every movie to ever come out, ever. I'm sorry. I might just have missed it. I've watched a lot of movies recently, guys. I'm sorry. I tried to get them all, I just couldn't. So please don't hate me, just leave your top 10 list in the comments below and we can talk about it there. And also please like and share, that helps me out a lot, and if you're new here, subscribe. But that's enough for me. Let's get to this list. Number 10, Singin' in the Rain. Singin' in the Rain is a 1952 film directed by Stanley Donen, starring Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and Debbie Reynolds. The plot of the film follows a silent film production company and cast as they attempt to make the difficult transition into sound film. And this honestly might be the most iconic musical of all time. The songs are all great, the dance numbers are fantastic. Of course, everybody knows about the song Singin' in the Rain, but you cannot do this movie full justice without talking about this dancing. Donald O'Connor is actually credited with creating hip-hop in this movie. It's fantastic, the dancing's just amazing. The character chemistry is great, they're all lovable, and this movie's just so much fun to watch. Number 9, The Seventh Seal. The Seventh Seal is a 1957 film written and directed by Ingmar Bergman and starring Max von Sydow. The plot follows a knight as he returns home from the Crusades with more questions than answers. He takes on a gamble with death in order to try to prolong his life so he can answer these questions that he has. It's filled with great dark imagery, the acting's good, the cinematography's good, the writing's flawless. This movie is so interesting and so original, and there's nothing I've ever seen quite like it. Long after the movie's already over, you'll be thinking about the philosophy and the theology and questioning what it all means. This movie was designed to try to make you think, and it exceeds at that perfectly. This movie is just fantastic. Number 8, Touch of Evil. Touch of Evil is a 1958 film written and directed by Orson Welles, starring Orson Welles, Charlton Heston, and Janet Leigh. The plot follows a murder mystery, kidnapping, and a police corruption story all happening in a small Mexican border town. And Orson Welles as a director in this is just completely technically masterful. The directing, the acting, the dialogue, it's all so well put together. From the first scene on, which is one of the most, if not the most iconic opening scenes of all time, this movie just holds your attention perfectly. Although not Orson Welles' best movie, it might be his most technically perfect. It's a close second if not. This movie is just amazing. Number 7, Sunset Boulevard. Sunset Boulevard is a 1950 film directed by Billy Wilder, starring William Holden and Gloria Swanson. The plot of the film follows a screenwriter who accidentally gets involved with an older actress. Ultimately, this is a film about what lengths people are willing to go to just to feed their own delusionment. This film was far ahead of its time in how it represented the behind the scenes of Hollywood and how dark and sinister it really is. It has great acting, great directing, great writing, and ultimately a really great story that's inspired many movies since. Number 6, White Christmas. White Christmas is a 1954 film directed by Michael Curtis, starring Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. The plot of the film follows two soldiers as they exit the war and enter into showbiz. From there, they end up getting involved with two other performers and try to put together a show in Colorado for their old general. Obviously, from the title, you can tell that this is a Christmas movie, and yes, it's very cheesy and it's very Christmassy, but that does not stop it at all from being absolutely fantastic. This movie has great song numbers, it's got great dance numbers, the acting is all great. There's no end to things to love about this movie. It's practically perfect. And you cannot bring up White Christmas without talking about the single greatest cross-dressing scene of all time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just watch the movie. Number 5, Strangers on a Train. Strangers on a Train is a 1951 film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Farley Granger and Robert Walker. The plot of the film follows a man as he meets a complete stranger on a train and accidentally involves himself in a murder case. From there, he has to try to free himself from suspicion and blackmail attempts while simultaneously alerting the police to who the real murderer is. And what else can you say about this film that is just classic Hitchcock? I love this movie. Hitchcock was the king of suspense, and this movie is just boiling over with suspense the whole time. I love it. I've probably said too much about this already. Just watch it if you haven't. This movie is amazing. Number 4, Harvey. Harvey is a 1950 film directed by Henry Coster and starring Jimmy Stewart. The plot of the film revolves around a delusional man who believes that he has an imaginary friend of a 6-foot-tall rabbit. His relatives are trying to get him committed to an insane asylum while he's just trying to live his life blissfully ignorant. And ultimately, this movie just asks the question, is it better to be oh so clever or oh so pleasant? Is there anything actually wrong with being a little bit off if you're a really good person and debatably the best person in the town? Jimmy Stewart brings so much character to this role that nobody else could. He takes this kind of silly premise and elevates it to something deep and profound on a philosophical level. And just like the rest of his movies, no matter how good they are, Jimmy Stewart is always the best part about it. Number 3. Dial M for Murder. Dial M for Murder is a 1954 film directed by Alfred Hitchcock starring Ray Millard and Grace Kelly. This plot revolves around murder and being framed for murder. Hitchcock firmly believed that in order to create suspense with an audience, you had to make them aware of something that the characters in the movie were not made aware of. And this movie is a testament to that belief. From the beginning of the movie, you know the mystery, you know the bad guy, you know the crime, but you're following along with the detectives and the criminal as they try to catch and evade each other. This creates one of the best and most interesting cat and mouse plots ever put to screen. I firmly believe that Psycho was the best Hitchcock film ever made, but this is a close second. Number 2. Anatomy of a Murder. Anatomy of a Murder is a 1959 film directed by Otto Preminger and starring Jimmy Stewart. The plot of the film follows an attorney who takes a case of a defendant pleading temporary insanity in the murder of his wife's rapist. And this has to be the most accurate courtroom drama I've ever seen. It's absolutely fantastically written. You don't know if the defendant is lying or not. You don't know if the witnesses are lying or not. You don't know what the truth is. You're just looking at it from the point of justice and the law. And that's great. This movie is so well written. It's masterfully written. And the back and forths between Jimmy Stewart and George C. Scott are so good, I could watch them argue for days. This movie was groundbreaking in so many ways, and still at the end of the day, like I just said about Jimmy Stewart in the last movie, he's just the best thing because Jimmy Stewart's awesome. He just always is. And the number 1 film for the 1950s is 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men is a 1957 film directed by Sidney Lumet, starring Henry Fonda and Lee J. Cobb. The plot of the film revolves around a jury as they attempt to reconsider the seemingly obvious evidence put before them. And much like Anatomy of a Murder, this film never explicitly tells you what the truth is. Both of these films really respect their audiences and allow them to come to their own conclusions, and that's amazing. The majority of this movie is confined to one small room and 12 characters, but you never get bored because the acting and the dialogue is just that good. The dialogue, the characters, the growth, the development, everything about this movie is just perfect in every way. And that's why 12 Angry Men is the best film of the 1950s. So that's my list. I hope you guys liked it, but of course you probably didn't. So leave in the comments below your top 10 list and your favorite movie and we can talk about it there. Also, please like and share. It helps my channel to grow. And if you're new here, please subscribe. Thanks guys. Bye.